Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking through our SuperStore exercises within the Power BI internal development um, PowerPoint. So what we're going to be looking at today is a set of data that's basically just looking at a store and talking through different sales metrics, different revenue metrics, breaking it down by region, by customer, by all of the different transactions that are happening at this said superstore. Within this section, we're going to cover the following topics. So we're going to look at how to build and construct different relationships between tables using the Power Query editor. So talking about how to actually manipulate the tables that are in Power BI, how to build calendar tables so that we can use time intelligence structures, how to make calculated columns and measures, and kind of dissecting the difference between the two. And then time intelligence, which is really just looking at, revenue that's month to date or year to date or last 12 months, whatever the timing that you want to look in and analyze actually is. So just to dig in a little bit, everybody should have the Excel file called Superstore Sales. And basically in here, we will have an orders table, a products table, which this product table basically just has a product ID, the product itself determining what container it is in, as well as the product category and subcategory. The customers table, which just has a list of all of the customers associated with this superstore, breaking them out by province and region and the segment that this superstore has defined. And then several regional managers, depending on what region we're actually in. So we'll get into this in a second, but basically, this orders table is what we're going to call a fact table. So this has transactional level data that shows on a particular date an order that was placed by the price at which it was bought, the cost per unit that the actual store incurred, the discount, the customer ID that whatever product they were or whatever customer they were selling it to, and then the product ID, whichever product that they were selling, when that order was due to the customer, when it was shipped, and basically the method of shipment. So that's called ship mode. So we'll go back to our PowerPoint and just look at the first set of exercises. So the first of which is opening the SuperStore sales Excel file and exploring the 4 tables, which we've done. And then next is to open a new Power BI workbook and save it as SuperStore analysis. So I'll come over here. So we've opened up this Power BI report, and I'll start working on it, and then we'll go and save it. But first, let's actually load all 4 tables into Power BI. So to do that, we'll go to Get Data. In our previous video, we were looking at a CSV file, but this is actually just an Excel workbook. So we're going to go up to our recent downloads, open that SuperStore sales. And something that you can do, typically when you're loading in a table, you're probably just going to be loading in one table at a time. But since all 4 of our tables are within this one file, we can actually just upload all 4 of them at the same time. So if I just select on them, you can actually see just a preview of the table. But what I'm going to do is just select all of them. And you can either hit load or transform data to actually get the data into Power BI. But for the time being, I'm just going to go and hit transform data. And I'm doing this because I want to show you all Power Query, which is basically just the query editor that's embedded into Power BI. So you'll notice when you hit transform data, it's actually opened up a new tab. So they have this front tab that is really just the report development tab. And then the secondary tab right here is what we call Power Query. And you can get to Power Query by doing what I just did, hitting transform data. But you can also do it at the top ribbon right here, and where it says transform data, I can go and hit select, and that'll pop open this tab. Or when I actually have data loaded, I'll show you, you can just right click on the table that's included right here and go ahead and hit edit query, and it'll take you to Power Query. But for the time being, we'll expand this and just look through each of our tables. And since we understand what each table is supposed to look like, we just want to make sure that everything looks good within these tables. So as you can see, the customer ID, customer name, province, region, customer segment, that all is looking good. The orders table, some things that I'm looking for right here are just making sure that numbers are qualified as numbers right here so that you can see this is kind of italicized and shows as a number. It's not necessarily a text format data type, which you see here is the order priority. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But basically, when we're doing calculations and measures with specific numbers in Power BI, we want the system to actually know that it's a number, not that it's a text string like we have over here. If we want to add two units together, I can add two numbers together, but I can't add two text strings together. And well, there are some examples of that, but not in the example that we're going to look at now. And then another is that I want to look and make sure that the order date is also stored as a date. And you can kind of see in the top left corner of each of these columns, they have a different data type, which Power BI automatically, when it sees something that looks like a date, it's going to just change that to the date. But if I right click on the top of the column, I can go to change type, and I can actually change this to a decimal number, to a text string. But fortunately, the order date is in fact a date, and I just want to keep it as a date. So fortunately, we're all good there. So if I just scroll right and check out, all of the rest of these, I just want to make sure that the dates are dates and that the numbers are numbers and the text is text. And I'm seeing that on all of these. So fortunately, it looks like we will be good to go. When I go back, I want to make sure that all the column headers are read correctly. So fortunately, it looked like that was the case. But then this last point, number 6, is saying, let's look at orders that shipped in 2017 or 2018. Filter out any job where the ship date is in 2019. All right, so we can do that by going up to our, and if we want to, we can click right here, and under date filters, if we select here, we can actually hit before. There are many methods of filtering that you can figure out on yourself, but let's just do where ship date is before. Let's go back to just 2019, and we'll go to just the 1st of 2019 and hit OK. So now everything should just be in 2017 or 2018 that we see here. All right, so let's go back. So we've done all of these. Now let's go and just make sure that all of the table relationships are built. So at this point, you can actually go ahead and hit close and apply, or even just hit this red X, and it will apply the changes for you. But for the time being, let's hit close and apply. So anytime that you go into Power Query, you make changes, just make sure that you actually close and apply each of the changes that you made. So all you do is click that button, and it'll load here for a little bit. So you see all 4 of the tables are loading, creating a connection, and now all 4 of our tables will show up here on the right-hand side. Just as a refresher, you can go down here and look at the table view to actually see each of these tables now. Perfect. So basically what we want to do now is make sure, something that I didn't quite catch is this regional managers tab, or this table. You see how it's highlighted as or headlined as column 1 and column 2, we actually want region and regional manager to be in the top of these columns. So I'm going to actually just right click on this regional managers, hit edit query, and I'll just hit use first row as headers right here. Perfect. So now I can either hit the red X or I can hit close and apply, and it will apply those changes. Perfect. So now region and regional manager show up. Perfect. So now I'm going to go into model view, and we'll see all of these tables, and I'll scroll out for a second, that we've loaded. And sometimes Power BI automatically makes relationships between tables, but for the time being, I'm actually going to remove them. So I'll delete this, and I'll delete this. So if you'll remember, this orders table is our fact table. It's the only one of these that actually has transactional information that basically shows at a certain date this transaction was made. Whereas products, customers, and regional managers are all focusing on kind of the secondary data. So this is going to show us different facts or dimensions about a particular customer or about a particular region having a particular manager. So when I want to make a relationship, I'm going to actually just go up here to manage relationships and hit new, and I'll use a column up here from a particular table. And right now we're going to look at orders. And first we'll look at products, the relationship between orders and products. Yeah, and sometimes Power BI will automatically create these for you. It's pretty smart like that. But basically we want to look at, make sure that this product ID and this product ID will match as a many-to-one relationship. So the many being in the orders table, we're going to have many customers ordering one single product, right? If you're going into a Walmart, there might be 100 customers that buy one singular pack of gum in a given day. However, on the products table, we really only need one record or one specific row to talk about all of the specific like facts about that particular product. So if we look at a product name, this Xerox 198 only needs one row, one product ID to show what was bought on this orders table. So that's broken out by this Xerox 198 belongs to the office supplies category and the paper category, or paper subcategory, as well as the small box product container category. So we'll go ahead and hit OK, and that'll automatically create the relationship between the two. But now let's say I want to look at the orders in the customers table. So this one, it doesn't automatically select them. So I do know that we have a customer ID field in here. Perfect, in the orders table. And then one in the customers table. And this is kind of weird. It's saying we have a many-to-many relationship. This can't be. We're not going to be able to solve this if we have a many-to-many relationship. And the reason I say that is because we can't have multiple of the same customers. So let's recheck and see if there are maybe duplicates in this customer ID field. Because if there are duplicates in this customer ID field, then this orders table, when it's filtered down to, let's say there are two customer IDs that are labeled as 412, it's not going to be able to determine which customer name is associated with the two records in the customer ID field. So let's actually hit cancel and go back to Power Query. And basically you can do that by either hitting transform data here, or again, just by right clicking on one of these tables in the right-hand pane. But I'm going to go ahead and hit transform data. And remember, we're going to be looking at the customers table. And although you see right here, there are 1,000 distinct and 1,000 unique customer IDs. As we scroll, we're basically just going to be seeing one on top of the other, we want to right click and hit remove duplicates. Remove any duplicates such that we only are going to have one customer ID per customer name. So I'm going to go ahead and hit X, and I'm going to hit yes. I want to apply my changes now. All right. So after you go into customers and remove any duplicates in customers, now we're going to go ahead and hit manage relationships again. And we're going to build a relationship between the orders table and the customers table. Basically, we'll look at the customer ID in the customers table, as well as the customer ID in the orders table. And thus, we see a many-to-one relationship, which is what exactly we're looking for. So you can go ahead and hit OK. And then what else are we looking at? So we want to also make sure that this regional managers table is also connected to another table. And basically where we'll find that is in the customers table, we have a region field, as you can see right here. And we want to make sure that this region field can be attributed to a particular regional manager. Because in the orders table, we're not given a region. We're going to have to make this connection between the regional managers table and the customer table. So we'll go ahead and hit manage relationships again. And let's go ahead and go from regional managers to customers. And it automatically selects region to region and one to many. So that's exactly what we're looking for. Perfect. All right, so great. So next, we actually want to build a calendar table. And fortunately for us, Power BI has embedded capabilities that allow you to build a calendar table or build a table from a simple DAX formula that is embedded within Power BI. So we're not having to outsource and grab a table from a data set outside of our actual report. We can build it within the report. And the way in which we'll do so is by a simple calendar formula, such that can be seen here. So we want to use this calendar function to create a table of unique dates where the first date is the first ship date in the orders table, and the last date is the last ship date in the order table. So we'll go back, and I want to add a table. So I will go to this modeling ribbon, hit new table, and it'll prompt me to start writing a little DAX formula up at the top. So I'm going to start typing in calendar. Perfect. And what's going to pop up is in parentheses, start date, comma, end date. So the start date is going to be the first ship date within our orders table. So I'll start typing min because this is going to give me the first of our data. So I'll go min ship date, and this will automatically calculate. And then comma, I want to look at the end date. So I'll type in max ship date. That's perfect. Close my parentheses. We'll have to add another one. And we'll just title this calendar. Give that a second to load. And I'll show you right here. This now has from January 1st, 2017, all the way down to December 31st of 2018. So a full 2 years we now have of dates. So let's see. We want to now integrate the new dates table into the data model by joining it to the orders table based on the ship date field. So basically what we'll do now is just build a relationship between that new table that we have and the orders table. And we'll do that by ship date. One other thing that I do want to show you is within this modeling view or the table view itself, you can actually change the data type from within the actual source. So we'll go ahead and just click on the title of this. So we'll just click on date, and it'll select the whole column. And right here, the data type you'll see is date time. Let's see, we are looking at midnight every single day. I actually just want to look at the date entirely. So rather than date time, I'm actually just going to hit date. And this might help with any inaccuracies within the relationship that we're about to set up. So we'll go to model view. And now we have this new calendar table. So I'll zoom out a little bit. And I want to hit manage relationships again, hit new, and then we're going to look at the orders table and the calendar table and select on date. And then it should be the ship date right here. And that's perfect. A many to one relationship. So I'll be able to filter using this calendar table to select one single date on here, and then it'll filter to all of the orders on that ship date that we select. So go ahead and hit OK. Perfect. So we'll move on to the next slide. This is basically what we should look like now, which if you're following along, this is indeed what our relationship model looks like. The next thing we want to do is create a calculated column. The first of which we'll do is extended revenue. So extended revenue should be the unit price on a particular order multiplied by the order quantity. All right, so this is perfect. So the unit price by the order quantity. So if we go back to our table view and go under orders, what we want to multiply is this unit price column by the order quantity to get extended revenue. So I'm going to go ahead and basically what we will do is we want to make sure that when we create this column, the result is 40 times 6.48. So similar to like a function that you would write in Excel, we're basically just going to create a new column that multiplies order quantity by unit price, such that when we look at a particular row, it's just going to only consider these two values. So you can do so two different ways. The first of which is under table tools. You can hit new column, and it'll populate that DAX formula up here and prompt you to start writing a code. Or you can right click on the table that you want to include the column on and just hit new column, and you can start typing your code there. So what I want to do, again, is just multiply unit price. So I'm just going to literally start typing in unit price, select that, and then multiply it by quantity. So I'll start typing quantity, and I see order quantity right here. And instead of it being named column, I'll title it extended revenue. Perfect. So this is the actual revenue that we're gaining from selling 40 of these units. So 40 units times the price of 6.48, we're earning $259.2 for this particular order ID 62 on May 19th, 2018. So if we go back, we want to be looking at the next one. So create a calculated column called extended cost. So extended cost should be the unit cost multiplied by the order quantity. So same as above, except we're going to be looking at the cost for the order, which is just a different column. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to hit new column for extended cost. Start typing in cost. So unit cost times our unit or our order quantity. All that extended cost. Perfect. So for this $259.2 that the SuperStore is making, it costs them $158. So the revenue minus the cost will actually just be the profit that they're actually making. So create a calculated column called profit should be the extended revenue minus extended cost. So this seems kind of meta, but basically what we're doing is we're going to create a calculated column based off of our calculated columns. So go ahead again, hit new column, And I'll just start typing in revenue, and this extended revenue column will pop up, minus cost. And we're going to be using extended cost, not unit cost, to look at profit. So as we see here, this 101.2 is just signifying the difference between 259.2 and 158. All right, so we'll go back. Basically, what we want to look at now, and I won't cover this in detail, but just think how our extended revenue and profit calculations would be affected if we included the discount percentage from the discount column. So you'll also notice in here that we have a discount. So basically, the discount should represent a 4% decrease in this unit price, which will inflate the extended revenue a little bit, and basically, or I'm sorry, deflate the extended revenue a little bit, and thus deflate profit by a little bit as well. And you can look at here at this slide to just see the difference between the discount applied and without discount applied. And I encourage you all to actually write those DAX formulas within Power BI and check to see. So the next thing we'll create is looking at creating a measure. So basically, that is a built-in calculation that we're able to filter on by different tables, and we can use multiple different fields to create a new measure. So just consider this kind of another functionality where we're able to look at the relationship between two columns or two values within Power BI, and we can actually build this off of calculated columns that we've built. But what we want to do right now is create a measure called profit margin, which should be the total of profit divided by the total of extended revenue. So we're using a measure so that this measure can be dynamically calculated across segments of our data. So as again, we want to be able to see, what is our profit margin for the region X versus region Y, or month X versus month Y. So we'll go back here, create a measure. So I'll just go ahead and click on new measure. And similar as the calendar table and similar to the calculated columns, it's literally just this little box that will open up that prompts you to write in some DAX formula. So what I'm going to do now, because I want to be looking at a total, I'm going to start by the function sum of a particular column, and I'll go back to make sure that I want to use the total of profit divided by the total of extended revenue. So I'll do the sum of profit, close that, and then divide by the sum of extended revenue. All right, so the measures aren't going to necessarily show on a particular table within the table view. However, when we start adding them to visuals within the report view, such as a table or some other like bar chart or something, they will indeed show up as the profit margin for whatever sector of our data we actually are looking at. All right, so now when we're on slide 135, we're looking at a different set of problems. So the first of which is which region had the most extended revenue, the most profit, and the highest profit margin percent. All right, so what I see here is maybe looking at a table and using the region as one side of the table that will just populate each of the different regions that we have, and then just add our new calculated columns and our new measure to show which region has the highest of each of these. So we'll go back. I'm going to make a table, and on my actually, on my products table, or I'm sorry, on my customers table, I'll make region a column. So this is going to list all of the regions. But I want to now look at the extended revenue, profit, and profit margin. So extended revenue would be this calculated column that I have under the orders table. I can just go ahead and hit select. So that's sum of extended revenue. What else do we want to look at? Profit. That's also just this right here. So that's going to show the sum of profit. And then profit margin. So we'll just use that profit margin calculation that I created. And this profit margin, you'll see right here, this is literally just a decimal number. But if we want to instead look at this as a percentage, I can go ahead up here and hit percent. So let's check this out. If I sort by sum of extended revenue, you'll see that this Atlantic region has the highest extended revenue. All right, so that's great. Northwest Territories looks at the lowest. Now, when I look at profit, probably not much is going to change, just because, when you're selling more, you're probably going to have more profit as well. Although there's not a direct correlation between revenue and profit. In this case, it looks to be like there is. However, when looking at profit margin, maybe how effective they are with their costing, let's sort it by that. Now, it looks like Quebec has the highest profit margin of nearly 51%, so 50.81%, followed by West, and Nunavut is the lowest region. All right, so now if we want to solve these bonus questions, we can actually just look at, rather than region, we can replace region with shipping method. So let's actually just hit X on region, and let's go to shipping method. So I'm going to search for ship mode and bring that down into my table now. And this is going to look at the shipping method by revenue, by profit, and by profit margin. So the question is asking, does shipping method affect profitability? And honestly, it looks to be like it doesn't really have a significant difference on profit margin. Express Air does have the lowest of the profit margin. Delivery truck has the greatest profit margin, but really not by a significant value. We're looking at 49% for each of those values. So let's look at the fourth bonus. Does the order priority affect profitability? So let's deselect ship mode and look at this through the lens of priority. And it looks like it somewhat has a difference in profit margin. You can see the critical order priority has the highest profit margin, which I think probably makes a little bit of sense, just given that the people that are ordering in a critical time stamp are probably going to be willing to pay a bit more money to have their orders shipped a bit quicker. But so this has a small impact on profit margin, a little bit different than what we were just looking at, but I would say it doesn't have a significant impact on profit margin.